How's it going, everyone? I wanted to make this video for you guys tonight to bring up the fact that, like, you know, a lot of people in this world is always going to be unexpectedly of what you think they may be. A lot of people always pay attention to what they see on the outside instead of understanding what's really within. And yeah, sometimes what you see on the outside, it can be a bit spot on, but you're always going to be surprised of when you get to know someone. You're always going to be surprised of who they truly are. You're always going to be surprised that there's something about them that is very fascinating, and you may find out that you have a lot in common with this individual. Now, for example, what I mainly want to say is, for example, a lot of people may look at me and be like, okay, so this guy is probably like into like Satanism or something like that. I used to be, actually, way long time ago. Used to be into like the left hand path, like Satanism and Luciferianism. But then like got out of that, mindset and practices and stuff like that. But the point is, primarily, I'm into light work and fully work with lighter beings and such. And but people would, for example, would expect that if you come across someone who is, for example, in that gothic style, or they listen to like hardcore music and such, or usually curse in their vocabulary or sentence and such, and then they're not someone who's fit for a spiritual path of morals and ethics. And then when people actually get to know the individual, they realize that they were wrong about them. And my other point is that it's good to be yourself, your authentic self, because if you're going to just try to be like everyone else and try to impress them, it's like you're trying to seek validation from others. And like, if you're trying to be like anyone who you would typically view as a light worker, or how they talk or speak or etc., and then it's just like, well, where's the fun in that if someone's not being authentic and they're just trying to be like someone else and trying to, like, look at it? And it's like, in a way, it just seems like it's the halo effect, like what narcissists usually would do to make themselves look great when they're really is a nasty person. And it's like, it's all about not judging someone by their color, because someone may look like an individual that you don't want to like be around, but then you realize there's someone you really want to be around, and that person who looks like on the outside like everyone find charismatic and want to, like, talk to and feel like they can trust, and then it turns out they're like very nasty. And so like, you can just walk the spiritual path of a light worker, a chosen one, someone who's bringing enlightenment, and a spiritual consultant, and be yourself. Listen to any kind of music you want. Just being who you are, and it inspires others. You can inspire so many people just by being authentic. Because if you're not, and just doing it to look good, and you think that being something that you're not is going to draw a lot of people in, it's not going to work out. It's going to create stagnation. It's going to backfire, actually. And there's a lot of people who need to understand this. And so when you're being authentic, you can actually like effortlessly manifest things to you in your life. And if you're someone who's so nasty, then there is a lot of healing to do and self-reflect and understand why that's there. Maybe you have dealt with so much neglect and abuse, and then you feel like that has to be your defense. And so, let's not get this mixed up as, someone who actually had dealt with that stuff, and then they have to be in defense and be nasty, but they're not. They're actually standing up for themselves. We can't mix that up, because there are good people out there who stand up for themselves, and then people attack them as if they're the bad guys, when the bullies are the ones who are getting protected. And we shouldn't be doing this. This world should not follow that inverted mindset. You need to be a divergent and speak up, and always stand up for yourself, and stand up for those who are being targeted by, bullying and such. Doesn't matter how old you are, it can even happen to adults. too. So not just like kids in school and whatnot. And so self-healing is important in your journey as well, you know, instead of projecting onto others and feel like, you know, just because like you, for example, speaking of to live in a suburban neighborhood, or just because like, you know, you're making so much money, like, then you feel like you're above others, you're not humble. You feel like God only favors you. There's a lot of people, like where I'm from, like you see people who are usually like you would consider as a hip hop head and whatnot, or you know, someone who feels like it seems like they're like that suburban type, and then if you're like someone who looks like me, then they're gonna assume that you ain't shit, and then they're gonna assume that you're not in the right place of mind and such. I always prove people wrong when they interact with me. And so, and I'm not afraid to be in my authentic self. There's a lot of people who even are, who admire me for being who I am. And they admire my intelligence, and I really appreciate that. And so, but I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm speaking like in general though. Like, for example, those within the goth scene, very intelligent individuals, very intelligent and have their place in the right, their focus in the right place when it comes to their goals in life. But a lot of people would judge those within the goth scene as like evil people who, um, you know, want the world to crash and burn and those around them, and they're not loving when they actually are, and empathic and such. And yeah, maybe some could be into left hand path, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that someone is a bad person just because they're practicing Satanism or Luciferianism. It doesn't automatically mean that they're a bad person and want the world to crash and burn, or want to feed on someone else's energy or stuff like that. It's not always the case. You know, so we're gonna keep an open mind here. Just like I know that someone, just because they live in the upperclassmen and such, it doesn't mean that they're a snobby asshole who look down on other people. I have met a lot of people who are from the suburban areas and upperclassmen who are really nice people, very compassionate, and you know, a lot of people always like, oh, rich people are snobby and shitty and blah blah blah. When there's a lot who care about a lot of people, you know, and there's a lot of people who believe that millionaires and billionaires are selfish and going to care about themselves. Do you really expect wealthy people to always constantly brag about the charity that they do for others? Do you really expect that? Come on. They're so humble that they're not gonna always show it. They're not gonna show it. They may have some charity works that you come across that they actually own, or like some programs out there, but they're not gonna brag about it. But people expect that, and it's just weird. You know, that kind of mindset can also stagnate your manifestations. You know what I'm saying? And you know, being humble can open a lot of doors for you too. And you know, regardless of where you're from, you know, we all can walk the same path no matter how someone may look. You know, and someone can, like, I used to even judge others as well, like because of my bad experience of encountering individuals who within the hip hop scene who look down on me because of, you know, my favorite types of music and such, or how I speak fluently. You know, it made me believe that most were ignorant a-holes, which most are not. And I realized some are actually spiritually gifted as well, and are enlightened and see understand things from a spiritual level, a higher consciousness, and not a superficial, materialistic, material worshiping type of individual. You know, it proved me wrong, and that's great. And it always makes me happy. It actually gives me hope in humanity. You know, when I meet an individual who is also on that same level of consciousness as me, and I could just like talk to them about a lot of things, and they will understand. You know, you can exchange information and learn from each other. You know, and so this is why people should just like lay off with expecting a lot of enlightened individuals to look like your typical loving light namaste individual, and just like actually walk the walk, talk the talk of having your heart open and your mind open towards a lot of people, and you know, not have expectations, but understand that it was, like, you never know. When you interact with people and you let go of the ignorant bullshit, you actually will be surprised. You know. So this is what I wanted to tell you guys. This is what I want to talk to you about. So, thank you for listening. Please like and share. God bless. Have an amazing Saturday night. And be safe, whatever you're doing, because it's the weekend.